So like initially there are like two types of challenges. One is the actual engineering challenge of building that thing, right? And second one is the convincing people to like actually buy it and use it. So like we'll talk about both. So but first we'll just talk about the engineering itself of the device. So like what is it and how it works? Like what is the
So
chemistry mechanics behind
basically,
it?
yeah. So you can look at this as a combination of biology and engineering. Okay. So the engineering is around that biological magic that happens, and we are just enclosing it in such a way that we make it conducive for the biology to work. Okay. So all the engineering is what we build around it. And all the biology is what happens inside it. Okay. So basically, this science is that these microbes are rather different from most life life forms. And what is the difference is that they need oxygen, but they cannot source their oxygen as oxygen. Hmm? So, for example, we can breathe oxygen, okay, but we can't go inside water and breathe dissolved oxygen, right? So, these microbes, they can't even breathe air, oxygen in the air, or oxygen dissolved in water. Rather, they source their oxygen from a carbohydrate molecule, okay? And the carbohydrate molecule is what does it consist of? Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Now, if you remove the oxygen from it, what remains back is the carbon and hydrogen, which is a hydrocarbon. In this case, methane. So, very simply put, this is I have tried to explain the science in very, very simple terms. This is the magic around which we are trying to make a useful application.
So like, but there are so many devices which have been used before, right? So like basically converting food waste or any kind of biodegradable substance into fuel is not like new idea. So like what you did different other than those
Yeah.
previous devices that made your device different.
Yes. I'll just go one step before. We initially began with gobar gas. And the fundamental value addition that Dr. Anand Karve made was that in order for you to operate the biogas plant, you don't need a continuous supply of gobar. Once you have the microbes in place, you can feed it any kind of food. Now, that was a very, very important, I would say, innovation or discovery. Invention, almost it's an invention, or it's a new idea that you are giving to the world, which is the contribution of Dr. Karve. And he also made a prototype, which the first one that I made was based on his guidelines. What I have done different is I have worked on the engineering aspect of it. So Dr. Karve's contribution was to make a working prototype and prove that this actually works. My contribution is to make it easy for the user. So most of my work has been around making it easy for the user. Okay, number one. Number two, another important contribution has been that being the user. Okay, so when I am the user, I am not going to trouble myself. I am going to ensure that I make design changes and make my life easy. I think this is the leg which has not been worked on in the past. Because what has happened, the gobar gas plants, the user were people in the villages who had supply of cattle, supply of dung, and it was designed by other people sitting in somewhere else. Now, that user study or user pain, I think, was not sufficiently addressed. Number one. Therefore, if the pain is not addressed, then the user is not going to use it for long. Number two, the system was not purchased by the user, rather it was purchased by the government. So there wasn't a customer relationship with the user. And because of that, the customer, if the customer is a paying customer, if you have some problem with your phone, you will dial the helpline, right? And you will demand that the problem be solved because you have paid for it. Now that commitment to ensure that the system works was therefore absent. Okay. And then there wasn't a service which was provided. So there could be a really, really small problem. As small as, say, the pipe has some leakage because some mouse has nibbled on it. It's a very, very small problem to solve. It's a very easy problem even to identify. But as a user, they may not know how to identify. So if you don't provide the service, then also the systems are not going to last. So these are some of my observations about why the existing systems may not have worked. Okay. And further, it was not an urban solution. It was largely considered to be a rural solution. I think these are some of my thoughts about why things didn't work in the past.
So basically, you converted into like proper customer-based product instead of just some initiative, because these were the things used by government so that farmers could have some another help for their income, right? So it wasn't made for customers from the beginning. So basically, you may convert it into a proper customer-based product. Right?
Yes, and yes, I mean we are walking in that direction. We are trying to find a customer, a paying customer, because we are giving them a value. Okay, and plus I tell you, over the past 10 years, maybe a decade or so, the whole idea around climate, fossil energy depletion are gradually reaching common people, these ideas. Therefore, we are able to reach out to these people who really are concerned about these challenges. That is another thing that is on our side.
We'll come to
working on our side.
Yeah, so we'll come to climate change and that part later on. So we'll just talk a bit more about your device itself. So whenever I search on internet about these things like biogas and all, so usually people who installed it anyway have some complaints about like it smells, and since you throw your garbage at it, like it stinks, right? So like have you like conquer that problem that it should be aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the product part of it.
Yeah. So honestly speaking, the product aspect of it was something we came to pretty late. And I learned it the hard way. And I learned it by realizing that even me, when I am taking a purchase decision, I definitely value how the product looks.
Right.
Okay. So simple things like if there is a scratch on the product, we consider it to be of a lesser value. Okay. But if I know that this scratch has come because it was not wrapped with plastic, okay, during the transport to save the use of plastic, then I am willing to tolerate the scratch. So as a social entrepreneur, we were not really educated about taking a product to a market. And I had the extreme luxury of being guided by people around me to put this idea in my mind that your product has to be good looking. So all these aspects about how the product looks, about how you find how do you dialogue with a person in front who is coming as a customer. We are learning these things gradually now, so that we can really stand strong on our feet as a business. So we are learning these things now the hard way. First, I used to think your idea, the fact that your product is solving a problem is enough. But then I realized it's not enough. You have to understand how to sell. So we learned how to sell. I mean, we are learning how to do it. And then I learned that even having the sales skills are not enough. Your product has to look good. So the design aspect of your product. So we are now incorporating that also in our product. So gradually we are becoming we are adding completeness to our work as and when we are feeling the need to do it.
Right. Because at the end, what happens is people don't want their own waste in their own house, right? They just want to get rid of it, and you are providing a solution where yes, it's getting converted into energy, but they have to keep their waste into their own home. So like somehow you have to give them that idea that yes, it's in your house, but you won't be bothered by that.
Yeah, to be honest with you, smell is a very, very important aspect. And I have experienced the pain of bad smell. Okay. So I completely value or respect if somebody asks question like, "Arey, it will smell" and so on. But I'll tell you what. So we definitely worked on that. And the first improvement over Dr. Karve's model was that we made our digester independent and our gas storage independent. But what we achieved because of that was our system became an entirely closed system. And so the entire thing of smell was eliminated. Okay. Yeah, that was the thing about smell. What I wanted to tell you was, so what happens ki many a times if we don't store our waste properly, the waste starts to smell. Right. If you don't put it inside Vayu properly, and if some food is lying around here and there, it doesn't even look good, and it may also smell badly. So you have to operate it properly, and that is a part of training, including, and it's small instructions like after you feed, take a cloth and just wipe it. It will take 3 seconds to do it, but because it is dry, it will ensure that there will be no smell. So these small instructions. And finally, no matter how evolved we have become, even after Corona, and even we are having this talk sitting at home, I cannot send you smell over WhatsApp or give you this experience of smell digitally yet. So the ultimate proof is in the pudding. I mean, the proof of the pudding lies in eating it. So I invite people to my house, and we stand over there and we stand and talk for 15 minutes, standing right next to Vayu. That's the ultimate pariksha.
So basically, you have solved that issue, right? So
the smell issue is solved. It's long solved.
Right. Because that is one of the biggest issue with waste.